And welcome back to another episode. Today is part 3 of What If Deku had Sin Jinwoo's powers, or Sun Jinwoo's powers, also known as the main character from Solo Leveling. Where we last left off, Deku had just assisted All Might by using his newest soldier he added to his army, called Noma, which was the resurrected variation of Nomu because Nomus are dead. To help assist All Might, and Aizawa had told him that they had 2 weeks to, prepare for the sports festival that is coming up. So Deku's on his way home, and he's trying to think of a way he can tell his mom that he's going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. He sees Kacchan also walking home, and he runs over to Bakugo, saying, "Hey, Kacchan." And Bakugo looks over at Deku, and Bakugo just really is confused about Deku's whole entire situation because he knows Deku's ability is not a quirk and he can resurrect the dead, which both are pretty big issues. And he says, "Kacchan, I got an idea." And Bakugo looks at Deku like, "What's your idea?" And Deku says, "Okay, so we have 2 weeks before the festival, the UA Sports Festival starts, right?" And Kacchan shakes his head up and down going, "Yeah, we do. So what?" And Deku's like, "Well, you see, I got some keys I've been storing up." And Kacchan remembers, or let me be more accurate, Bakugo remembers that the keys allows Deku open portals to fight monsters. And Bakugo already sees where this is going, so he's like, "So you want me and you for the next 2 weeks to go fight in portals?" And Deku shakes his head up and down going, "Yeah, I want us to train together by fighting monsters inside portals." And Bakugo instantaneously thinks to himself going, "Well, if this nerd got this strong only after, he said he had his abilities for 10 months? And's gone this strong, whatever he must be fighting must be super strong. Maybe I should fight too." And Bakugo agrees. And then Deku then explains the plan. Bakugo's gonna walk to his mom and tell his mom that he's gonna be over at Deku's house for the next 2 weeks, and Deku's gonna walk to his mom and tell his mom that he's gonna be over at Bakugo's house for the next 2 weeks. And then Bakugo looks at Deku and he's like, "So why don't we just say we're going to be training?" And then Deku looks at Bakugo and he's like, "You really think if we explain the situation that we're going to be fighting monsters in a different dimension just to train, you think they would still let us go? Especially when we're going to be gone for 2 whole weeks, killing hundreds of thousands of monsters and surviving that way?" And Bakugo thinks for a second. He's like, "Yeah, they ain't gonna let us do that. That's a horrible idea." And he also calls up the teachers and informs All Might that there's gonna be a portal at this certain location, telling him that in case if we don't come back in the next 2 weeks, come to this portal and we'll be in there and we'll be continuously fighting. You can end up saving us from that location in case of emergency, but the enemies here are really strong and you should be worryful if you go against any. So Bakugo and Deku meet up around 8 p.m. that night. After they had told all the parents, and then Deku had told All Might where they're going to be at. So after that happened, Deku walks up to Bakugo and says, "Yo, Kacchan, over here." And Kacchan sees Deku walking up to him and then walks towards Deku. He's like, "So where's this portal we're meant to go through?" And Deku reaches into his inventory and he says, "We're going to start out with a lower ranked dungeon. Mainly because I haven't beaten anything past B, and B ranked dungeons were really hard for me back about 2 to 3 months ago." So he pulls out a B ranked dungeon key. And Bakugo agrees with this, going like, "Yeah, I've seen your increased strength. I know that these dungeons are probably going to be hard even at B rank." And Deku holds out his hand to Bakugo. And Bakugo's kind of confused by this. He's like, "Why are you holding out your hand to me, you shitty nerd?" And Deku's like, well, we kind of need to have physical contact to enter through the portal. Like, I could just put my hand on your shoulder or whatever else, but only I will enter if we don't have physical contact with each other. And Bakugo understands this. And Deku explains that he had left a shadow over into his mom's shadow. So worst case scenario, we can shadow warp out if we have no heroes come to help us after the 2-week time period. And Bakugo agrees. So they walk into the portal, and when they walk in, they end up finding themselves in a cold, tundra-looking area. And Bakugo starts shivering. He's like, "Where did you take me to, you shitty Deku?" And then Deku, who's also shivering, is like, "Just shut up and put on some clothes," as he reaches into his inventory and chucks Bakugo a heavy-duty shirt and a heavy-duty pants for snow activities with some snow boots. And Bakugo quickly puts them on, trying to start heat up everything. That's better. Bakugo says that he makes explosions in his hand to help heat up his hands more. And Deku's like, "Yep." So they end up walking throughout this frozen forest. And while they're walking out through the frozen forest, an arrow gets launched at them. Deku quickly shoves Bakugo, making Bakugo dodge the arrow as Deku barely dodges it himself. And when they turn around, they see a weird blue-looking humanoid figure with blue eyes with pointed ears. And above it, even Bakugo can read, its name is an ice elf. And Bakugo's like, "An ice elf? What the fuck are we in, an RPG?" And Deku shrugs his arms saying, "Yeah, basically." And Bakugo looks at Deku, he's like, "So you have had to fight humanoid-looking creatures as well?" He's like, "Yeah, what do you think my knights are?" And then Deku starts to engage with the Iceman, while Bakugo sees another arrow getting shot. Deku quickly explodes the arrow away from Deku so Deku doesn't get injured. And Bakugo sees that there's another archer up in the tree. So Deku tells Bakugo, "Bakugo, go after that one while I'll go after this one, and we'll both take him down." And Bakugo agrees. Bakugo quickly flies over by using his explosions. He's like, "Die, you shitty smurf!" And then the elf rambles off in elven language, which translates to, "Ha, you're an explosive mage, huh? Too bad my ice arrow can freeze you in your tracks." As he starts chanting a spell for an ice arrow, but before he could even finish it, Bakugo quickly explodes, sending the ice elf flying backwards and slamming into the tree, which then he gets up and gets a knife out of his pocket and starts charging at Bakugo with it, realizing that he doesn't have enough time to chant for a ice arrow spell, so he has to quickly go in and attack Bakugo. But on the other side of things, Deku's in a close range knife fight with this other ice elf, as they're both taking slashes at each other. Luckily, Deku chucked one of his knives, which the elf was like, "Haha, you missed." And Deku thought this was weird because he could understand the elf and what it was saying. And Deku was replied with, "Oh, you thought I missed, did you?" As he makes a hand motion with his hand with 2 fingers, pulling the knife back out of the tree, flipping it around and sending it flying straight back at the knife at the elf's skull, killing the elf instantly. And then he looks over to see Bakugo explode the knife out of the other ice elf's hand and says, "Die, you fucking smurf!" and uses a howitzer explosion to blow the elf to smithereens. And Deku says, "Don't feel bad about killing them, Bakugo," as he can see that Bakugo is slightly distressed for killing a semi-humanoid personnel. And Bakugo says, "What you mean I can't feel bad? I literally killed something that looked like a human." And then Deku reminds Bakugo that it's not a human. The creature, its main goal is to kill you, and if you don't kill it, you will die by it. Not to mention, we really can't leave this place until we kill the boss. And then Bakugo goes, "The boss? You never said anything about there being a boss." And Deku explains, like you said earlier, it works exactly like a dungeon. There is a boss that we have to kill. The boss will be stronger than anything else. And we have to take out the boss. But in the meantime, I would like to resurrect these elves. As he walks over to the corpse of the blown to bits pieces Bakugo had done, he's like, you really could have done a better job to keep the body at least somewhat intact. And Bakugo's like, shut up, you damn nerd. You don't even resurrect the body, you resurrect the soul. And Deku's like, fair enough. Arise. As a shadow figure starts to form over the dead corpse, with the name peering above it, Ice Elf Archer Shadow, or Shadow Ice Elf Archer. Rank Soldier, or rank Knight, whatever you want to call it. There's different ranks, but basically it's equivalent. And he has him join his shadow. And he walks over to the other one and rises that. So now he has 2 additional archers that are also good at close range knife combat, as well as can fire ice arrows towards the opponents. They keep walking, and they start seeing claw marks on the trees, and they don't think much of it. But as they keep walking, they calmly walk into an area, and it's a clear forest clearing with what looks to be some trees had been toppled over. And out of nowhere, a giant claw starts going towards Deku as he gets cut across the chest, getting sent flying backwards into a tree. As Bakugo quickly avoids and then checks on Deku to see how bad his injuries are. The injuries are pretty deep into Deku's chest. As Bakugo looks towards the creature that had just injured Deku, he reads, Ice Bear, in a orange text. And Deku tells Bakugo going, it's an ice bear. The orange text means that it's equivalent to our strength, so it's going to be really difficult to defeat. As Deku starts holding over where the bloody claw marks are on the center of his chest. And then Bakugo goes, why don't you drink one of your full restores? And Deku's like, yeah, fair point, but it's going to take me a minute. I need to stop the bleeding. I'm actually really injured. Bakugo, hold off the bear as long as you can. Just then, Bakugo starts chasing towards the bear and fires an explosion at the bear, doing almost no damage to the bear's coat. Afterwards, the bear tries to take a slice at Bakugo, adding on to its claws were sharp ice sickle-like appendages, so its claws were covered in ice, so it had farther reach. Bakugo at least evaded that with only getting slightly skinned on the left leg. Afterwards, Bakugo flies behind the bear and launches an explosion into the bear's back, dealing almost 0 to no damage to the bear. As then Deku says, Igneous, go help out Bakugo. And out of nowhere, Bakugo sees a black with red tinted soldier starting to run towards the ice bear to take a slice at it, which Bakugo greatly appreciates. Even though it hurts his pride a little, he understands that this isn't no mama's boy hero versus villains. This is a very dangerous situation where he could easily get killed. Deku reaches into his inventory while this battle's going on after sending out Igneous and drinks a 4 restore. Afterwards, he stands back up. He's still a little bit dizzy, and the pain he can still kind of feel, mainly because it's the emotional pain and not the physical pain itself. As he then puts the empty container back into his inventory, thinking that could be used later to hold water, because they have no clue how long they're going to be there. As he pulls out his knight's red knight dagger, as well as his Fulgur's fane, and starts rushing towards the bear as well to join in with Igneous and Bakugo. Igneous had gotten some decent slices on the bear, making its use of its legs basically immobile, so it can't escape now from the fight, as Bakugo launches another howitzer explosion, sending the bear flying into a tree, greatly wounding it. Deku comes in and slices off the bear's head with one knife slice. with the red knife's dagger, and then stab the head with Fulgur's Fang to shock it, just to make sure that there's no chance of this creature coming back. Afterwards, Deku passes to Bakugo a full restore, and Bakugo says, "Do you really think I need a full restore for a cut that small?" And Deku says, "Do you really think I care? We're in a situation where things can go to bad super quick. You literally saw how I almost got taken out of the fight, and I would have been taken out of the fight if I didn't have a full restore. Even a light injury like that tiny scratch on your leg can cause you to lose and die. We have no clue what magic they could be using or what weapons they could be using. Just shut up and take the potion." And Bakugo's kind of astonished by Deku's sudden jolt in more or less confidence and leadership, as he then resurrects the ice bear in front of Bakugo, as Bakugo just kind of looks away and drinks his potion. He resurrects the ice bear and calls the ice bear Iron, because of its iron-tough skin being able to resist all of Bakugo's explosions. And then Deku hops onto the back of Iron, using Iron like a mount, and offers Bakugo a ride. Bakugo says he doesn't need it because he can just fly using his explosions. And then Deku said that should also get rid of all of your fatigue, so you should be able to use more of your howitzer's explosions. And Bakugo agrees with this, as they both keep on trudging through the forest. While heading throughout the forest, they ran into some more ice elves, which were more easily dispatched thanks to Icarus and Iron both being out. Noma still stays in Deku's shadow, mainly because he doesn't want Noma to come out, because he doesn't know like the capabilities of Noma, and especially after what he saw Nomu do to his sensei, and he knows that Noma is the resurrected soul of Nomu. So he's still kind of afraid of using Noma to its fullest extent. As they're going throughout the forest, after taking down at least 20 plus ice archers, they come across a weird castle-looking object. Well, not much of a castle, Deku thinks to himself. More of like a house, or a mansion to be more accurate. And Deku looks towards Bakugo, and Bakugo looks back towards Deku as they both nod, knowing that they're gonna go into the castle. But there was no guards at the entrance to this castle/mansion looking place. And even when they got in there, there was still nothing at all. And then they finally get to the room that seems to be the main dining hall, and they open it. And at the very end of the table, they see a an ice elf with a crown on his head made of ice, and above him reads Ice Elf Keen. And the Ice Elf Keen speaks in human tongue, saying, "Come in and sit down. I would like to have a talk with you two. And your servants can just wait outside," he says, as Deku absorbs the servants into his shadow, as he sits down at the other side of the table, with Bakugo sitting right next to him. And then the Ice King stands up and starts to walk back behind him towards where a fireplace was at, looking at the fire, with a drink in his hand, swirling it around like some fine wine. He says, "You all have caused me a lot of trouble, to say the least. You know, killing multiple of my men. You know, we were kind of peaceful, living symbiotic with," as he takes a sip of his wine, "the ice bears. But after y'all came here, for some reason, some sort of voice in our head was telling us to kill you. And if we disobeyed the voice," as he takes another sip of his drink, "it hurts us, to say the least. So, let me just ask you a question," as he quickly spins around. "Who are you? And Bakugo can just feel the complete and utter power that this guy's radiating off, and so can Deku. And Deku stands up and he's like, well, ever since we have come in here, we were not only attacked by your ice archers, which were pretty strong, but also by an ice bear that we had to kill, and your other ice elf companions. Not to mention, also, for some reason, they spoke in Elven while they were talking to us. I guess I can't expect them to speak in English, but, well, it kind of sucks when I'm the only one who knows how to speak Elven around here. And Bakugo looks to Deku with the most confused face. He's like, since when can you speak Elven? And Deku's like, since we entered through the portal. And then the man looks at Deku and he's like, well, you see, for some reason, I ain't getting told to kill you. So I'll ask you again, what are you? And then Deku responds, I'm a human, just like the rest. And then the Ice King sits there and he laughs a little bit and he's like, yes, you are. I'm a fool to believe that you weren't. Now, how about this? I'll spare your life, as long as you hand over your companions next to you. And Bakugo gives him a pissed off look, but still knows he shouldn't say too much to anger the man sitting in front of him. Thanks to the pure aura the man is radiating off of him, telling him that he will probably die if he decides to pick a fight. And Deku says, he is a douche. And then Bakugo looks at Deku like, what the fuck, man? And an asshole. I'm kind of just all around a pretty shit friend, But I can't abandon him. And then Bakugo gets like a prideful look on his face saying, yeah, we're friends and everything. And then he also says, wait, what the fuck you called me a douche, you shitty Deku? And then Deku just shrugs his shoulders saying, now's not the time to argue. And then the Ice King said, well, you had your choice. As he then starts to dash towards Deku, Deku quickly grabbed his knife out of his inventory and guarded the knife the Ice King tried to hit him with. As Bakugo quickly flies to the left and fires an explosion at the Ice King, barely knocking him off balance and doing minimal damage at best. And the Ice King laughs, saying, that was meant to be an explosion, as he launches an ice spear directly towards Bakugo that Bakugo quickly dodges, and then follows up with an AP shot, a move that he was working on specifically to be used against higher and stronger targets throughout their time of working here, which the Ice King does get slightly wounded in his left leg because of this. Afterwards, he launches another ice thing at Bakugo, but this time it's more of in a shape to handcuff, and handcuffs him to the wall, basically. Afterwards, the ice slowly starts spreading on Bakugo's body, basically leaving him immobile there. As Deku sees this and also sees the injured on the left leg, he decides to attack the left leg again, quickly throwing a dagger at the Ice King, but it completely misses. And he's like, huh, you think you really can hit me with something that weak? As then Deku takes a straight gut punch from the Ice King as the knife comes back and stabs itself directly into the spot where Bakugo had hit the AP shot at, causing the Ice Elf King to fall over onto his leg and fall on the ground. At that same time, Icarus and Iron both come out of Deku's shadow, and Icarus holds the Ice King with the sword to his neck as Iron rips off the Ice King's leg and chucks it away. The Ice King screams out of anguish with his leg being torn off, and then Ice Bear standing looking right at his other leg about to rip it off while another person has a sword to his throat. He says that he yields, and Deku says, well, I don't, as Icarus cuts off the Ice King's head to see the head rolling on the floor, as then Deku kicks the head into the fire, watching it burn alive. Just then, Deku also assisted Bakugo with getting the ice off of him, and Bakugo's freezing at this point, and he's like, why the fuck did I get hit with the fucking ice thing? As they both read a message on their in front of their face, saying that this place was going to close in 30 seconds. Deku tries to resurrect the Ice King, but it didn't work all 3 times. Afterwards, the soul can no longer be extracted. After that, Deku and Bakugo both got ready as Deku put his hand on Bakugo's shoulder just to make 100% sure that they would be teleported out. Afterwards, they got teleported out and returned back into the real world. They had learned that 4 days had passed since they entered the portal. They both decided to go home and take a nap to reconnect with their families for a little bit, explained that they had had a fun time over at the other personnel's house and Deku also had called up All Might, informed All Might that he had just returned from the dungeon with Bakugo. And All Might says, with Bakugo? You didn't talk about Bakugo being there. And Deku apologized, saying, yes, I know I didn't speak of it, but Bakugo and I both decided that would be a smart idea to go in as a 2-man party rather than a solo party. And then he also explained how he had a new ally named Iron, which is a giant frozen bear that could extend its reach with its claws by forming icicles around them. And All Might's like, does this kid have a limit to his power if he's able to go into these different dimensions and kill things and make them a part of his army? What is his limit? As Deku gets off the phone, he calls up Bakugo and tells Bakugo to meet him tomorrow because they're going to go back in and go into a different location. And Bakugo says, is it going to be cold? And Deku says he has no clue. It could be cold, it could be warm. It all just depends. And Bakugo sighs and he's like, okay, you shitty nerd. And that's where we're going to leave it off for today. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. And like I said, after this part gets 50 views, we'll go on to the next part. And I do want to flesh out this story a little bit more. I don't want to make Deku too overpowered, but I do want to flesh it out. Hence the reason why I'm constantly adding in more. And the reason why we're not even on the UA Sports Festival yet. And it's part 3. I know. Too bad the UA Sports Festival is probably going to be like 30 minutes long. And the 2 weeks leading up to it is probably going to be like 4. No, probably not 4. It's been 4 days, so they have about 10 days remaining. So it's probably not going to be too many more parts. We'll probably do like another 2 parts beforehand. Well, like I said, if you liked it, hit the like button. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. And until next time, goodbye.